is focused on treatment. A lot of the news is looking at hydrochloroquine, you're looking at steroids, immune modulating medications when you do get COVID, or ICU treatment. More of the news actually is just the numbers. X people died from COVID, X people got COVID, etc., etc. When this whole issue of COVID-19 came about in the Institute for Functional Medicine, in where I trained at in the US, they created a task force with all of our faculty who looked into the literature to look at how lifestyle recommendations would then impact our response to the virus. So what I'll be showing with you today is the original research of our faculty, which I then translated to localized data. So what you'll see is more of a Southeast Asian implementation of this knowledge set rather than a US version of what they had come up with. Everything I mentioned also is all scientifically backed. So you'll see a lot of my references below the slides. And so it's the first time I heard of your group, actually, Contemplative Outreach Philippines. So a big part of my soul is in social work. I worked with low-income communities for most of my life. So I am very much honored to be lecturing to you guys today. 4 main topics of discussion. What is COVID? Let's go break what the news is saying. Let's try to look at it from a molecular standpoint. How does it affect our body? What are the nutrition lifestyle recommendations to protect or mitigate the risk of COVID? Or if you get it, how do you reduce the risk of complications? And finally, how do you, or what is an example of an anti-COVID type of lifestyle, right? And that's where we all kind of end the session for today. This is the COVID virus. So this was a reconstruction by the CDC. And you'll see that it has multiple different spike parts, right? It looks like a Lego piece, to be honest. So if you have nephews, you have Lego pieces that they play with. It's structured that way because most of those spike parts have a function. So these are the parts. You have the spike glycoprotein S, you have the E protein, membrane protein, RNA genome, and there's an envelope. Membrane protein is responsible for viral replication. The spike protein is responsible for viral attachment. And so it makes sense that just like Lego, if you put a different Lego piece on that spike part, it's not going to function correctly. It's not going to look the same way. And that's what we're going to try to describe to you today. How do you then put different Lego pieces from your food, from your lifestyle, to change the way this virus affects your body? We were all, so whenever I lecture this, I take note if the crowd is before year 1999 or after the year 1999, because the movie Aliens came out before 1999. So if you're familiar with this logo, you know this movie. And basically COVID is like the movie Aliens. It goes to our body, it replicates, and it creates more aliens. And then the aliens then would lead to the sequela of the complications, right? So that's a very, very simplistic way of explaining the virus. Now, the alien itself, or COVID, likes to go to our respiratory tract simply because there is a receptor there called ACE2 that it likes to attach to. So like Lego pieces, it attaches to that one segment that looks like it, which is the ACE2 receptor. ACE2 receptor is seen in different parts of the body. You can see it in the blood vessel, you can see it in your kidneys, in your heart. But the organs with the most number of ACE2 receptors is your nose, mouth, throat, and lung area. That's why most of the research or most of the news will tell you, oh, he was intubated, or it was a respiratory droplet type of infection, because that's where they connect into to replicate in our body. Now, once the COVID virus gets into our mucous membranes, our lungs, our throat, there is our immune system that starts to respond against it. This picture of a dam is our representation. I think this there. This picture of a dam is our representation of your immune system. So the immune system is very, very tightly regulated. You don't spill water or you don't spill immune cells every day. When an invader comes to our body, the body recognizes the invader and it starts to release pinpoint immune response molecules against that one invader, right? But what does COVID do? COVID actually activates the immune system to open the floodgates. And our entire immune system starts to gush out. And that's what typically will create the complications, right? So let's get that clear. It's not COVID that's going to get you in trouble. It's the response of your body against COVID that gets you into trouble, right? So It's a very, very basic thing that I like to explain. And then, as the immune system starts to actively respond to the COVID virus, the immune tissue, the immune response then starts to damage the normal cells. The damaging of the normal cells is what we then see as the complications. We have pneumonia because the lungs have fluid, they're damaged. You have respiratory infection, throat issues, and so on and so forth. And so if we then break down the steps of the COVID infection, then we know that these are the finite steps. You have the virus attaching to your body, right? So if you're doing social distancing, you're doing your mask and face shield, you're going to have a big X on that first step. If you wash your hands also. The only way it goes to your body is if you have the virus on your fingertips and you touch your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. If you don't touch that because you're wearing a mask and face shield, then there's no chance the virus can get in. The second stage, if it does get into the mucous membranes, is this activation of your immune system. So there's an immune activation. The third step is that the virus gets into the body, it replicates within our cells. The fourth step is that the immune system starts to activate very, very rapidly, and that's what gets you into trouble. There's an uncontrolled immune response, and then that will lead to the complications in the areas where that happens, okay? According to the literature that we had pulled up, there are multiple different therapeutic targets to support the fight against COVID. What does that mean? Many things we can use against COVID. In this paper, it was looking at potential mechanisms. Next paper, looking at potential nutritional strategies against COVID or viral infections in general. Next paper, looking at nutritional recommendations against COVID. And so if you look at the literature, there are multiple steps we can undertake where we can stop the virus. If your immune system in step 2 starts to activate, there's a switch called NLRP3. If you stop NLRP3, you will stop COVID from doing its immune response activation. In the third step, if you stop MPRO, one of the spike proteins on the virus, you will stop it from replicating. In the fourth step, if you stop this signal in our body called NFKB, you will then lead to a lower immune response, and that will lead to lower chance of complications later on. So we're going to go through this one at a time. The first mechanism we're looking into is NLRP3. So NLRP3 has been researched by countless different other physicians and researchers. And what they found is there are natural compounds that will block NLRP3. In the hierarchy of natural compounds to block it, these are the foods that you should be watching out for. If you eat foods with quercetin, curcumin, epigallocatechin or EGCG or resveratrol, coming from the foods, quercetin comes mostly from onions, super high amounts of quercetin in onions, curcumin from turmeric, epigallocatechin from green tea, resveratrol from grapes and dark chocolate. So if you have some of these in your diet, there are molecules in these that will stop the virus from creating inflammation or immune activation. This is a more robust food list of those nutrients. So the question then for you would be, as I keep showing you these food lists, would be, do I eat okra? Did I eat okra today? Did I eat something with asparagus? Did I eat arugula today? Did I have watercress? Did I have one soy? Some onions, turmeric? And so as you go through your day, you can then have a checklist of asking yourself, was my meal anti-COVID or not? Right? Do I have foods in my meal that will support my fight against COVID? This is one of the first things we learned to cook before. I learned to cook probably like 3 or 4 years ago. It's very sad that in med school we don't get trained to cook. We made caramelized onions, super easy. You cut onions, you do slow fire saute, keep mixing it so it doesn't burn, and then you add broth to make French onion soup. Well, there are no more restaurants out there, so I'm sure you can ask your cook to make this. But the favorite for Filipinos is bistek Tagalog. So this is another one that you can have a lot of quercetin with because of the onions. Just note that the beef and the toyo does not have nutrients there. That's a processed food item and typically will have more inflammation in them. Okay, the second mechanism is replication of the virus. That is the mechanism of MPRO, and in the papers, we're seeing that there are also natural compounds that will block the virus from replicating. And what are these compounds? These are the scientific terms. I'm not going to bore you by reading all of them, but the first list I had for the first mechanism are already here. And so if we cancel them out, these are the nutrients that we would be watching out for to add to our list. Um, these are the nutrients of luteolin, naringenin, apigenin, and oleuropein. The food items underneath them are the ones that contain them in the highest to lowest orders. So luteolin is from peppers, mostly sweet green pepper, peppers, celery, pumpkin. Naringenin from suha. So if you eat suha, then you have one nutrient to block COVID replication. Tomatoes, oranges, beans, apigenin are mostly from herbs. So if you put herbs in your food, that is generally antiviral. It's a good practice to do. You can put on your rice, you can put it on different sauces, dry herb wrap, and all that. And if you cook with extra virgin olive oil, there's a nutrient there called oleuropein that will stop the virus from replicating. So we take this list, we add it to the previous one. This is our new list. So I'll give you I'll tell you when, if you want to take a picture, you can take a picture later on when we've completed the list na. So the first two food lists would then block step 2 and step 3 based on the steps that we had discussed. And so we can move to the third response. If you recall my initial slides, the only way COVID can get you into trouble is if it feeds forward and creates an uncontrolled immune response. This uncontrolled immune response medically is called the cytokine storm. There's many immune molecules going around in your body creating this storm of response. Now, the cytokine storm is not new to the medical community. We've seen this before in different conditions like sepsis. We've seen this before in different conditions. And so it's not new. The ways to treat it are not new. And what we know is that there's this genetic code in our bodies that creates inflammation. The genetic code is called NFKB. And this code, once turned on, will create uncontrolled inflammation or uncontrolled immune response. That's typically what we need to turn off, this fire alarm called NFKB. Because if we don't, that's when the body starts to damage its own system. But what we're seeing now is that we don't just see this uncontrolled immune activation in COVID. We've seen it in other conditions as well. We've seen it in diabetes, hypertension. We've seen it in obesity and cancer. And so the recommendations to stop NF-kappa B are very finite, and we've actually found out what they are already. Nutritionally, if you have foods with vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, glutathione, melatonin, and zinc, these are all going to reduce this NF-kappa B NF-kappa B signal. Again, the food items are classified from highest to lowest containing. So if you need vitamin A, it's typically the orange containing foods. You're looking at sweet potato, carrots, tuna, squash, spinach. Spinach is not orange, by the way. Melons, and then you have lettuce, red bell pepper, broccoli. Vitamin C, the highest containing food with vitamin C, is not an orange or calamansi. It's actually bell peppers. Green bell peppers have the highest vitamin C. So adding that to your diet would start to support antioxidant function, lowering NF-kappa B, NFKB. Vitamin D, glutathione, melatonin will all reduce that function as well. Vitamin D from fish, seafood, liver, chicken, beef liver, egg yolk, mushrooms. Glutathione from asparagus, avocado, bok choy, cucumbers. Melatonin will induce better immune response. So you can take, you actually can get melatonin because when you eat cherries or bananas, your gut microbes will convert the food into melatonin. And then finally, zinc, which we all know supports immune function. So you get it in peas, chickpeas, spinach, garlic, salmon, and the list goes on. So ideally, what we'd like to be doing is we'd like to have a certain food item. Whenever you have your meals, you have foods that block one of each pathway, right? So if you eat your lunch, do you have things that will block NLRP3? If you eat your lunch, do you have things that will block the virus from replicating? And finally, when you eat lunch, do you stop inflammation from happening? These are a couple of other papers that we have pulled out to look at rapid guidelines for nutritional intervention. But mostly this is the Southeast Asian food list. So this one you can take a photo of, guys. When you do your grocery, do you have these foods in your grocery list? And chances are you do. most of these are found locally. They're in your groceries. And the idea then would be, how much of it are you eating per day? So typically you'd want half your plate having fruits or vegetables. It's mostly plant-based. One fourth of the plate as carbohydrate, or the rice or a piece of bread or pasta. Then the other one fourth would be your protein containing meal. So that would be the animal protein or plant-based protein that you would be taking. And that's a typically well-balanced plate as you go through your day. My parents are part of the, I guess, at-risk category for during this COVID times, because my parents have hypertension, diabetes. And so what we've done since the start of lockdown back in March was to start to create green juices for them on a daily basis. So we get some of the foods from the food list. We put it in a blender, put water in it, then we blend it, and then we force feed them to drink it. Not kidding, but we do actually ask them to drink it. My mom takes like one fourth a glass. She can't take it. My dad takes probably one or two glasses a day, and you'll see the effect. There's a lot of these food compounds that you'll find are super healthy, not just to fight COVID, but to have good health in general. Improves bowel movement. It'll start to support clearance of toxins in the system. We have a Facebook page in our clinic called Whole Health. You can just type it, Whole Health PH, and you'll see these toolkits in the photos section. So we give this for free. A lot of people have downloaded it actually. On the left, you have the food list, the Rainbow Anti-COVID grocery list. And on the right, you have a couple of different recipes that we've done in the clinic to help kind of give a jump start for the creative side of kitchens in different households. If a patient has had COVID, we're seeing that the patients are mostly depleted in terms of protein status, healthy fat status, nutritional status. I'm very privileged to be taking care of a couple of these post-COVID cases. They get pretty complicated, hence I get to take care of them. But what we're seeing mostly is that their immune systems don't know how to respond to the environment. And so what we do then is we start to reduce all the reasons why their immune system would not function correctly. So we take away the processed food. We take away a lot of the toxins in their food, additives, preservatives. We ask them to start to do different activities to clear and to increase immune response, which I'll show you in the next few slides. We've known for a long time that if you get stressed, you will get sick, right? So you don't need science to kind of prove this point, but I will show you science to prove this point. And this was a study done in Saudi Arabia. And what they did was to look at stress hormone levels for students throughout an entire semester. They got the lab work every week. And what they saw was that as the students entered the weeks nearing to the finals, stress levels molecularly would start to increase. At the same time, they started to ask the students if they were having issues with their health. And they found that as stress levels increased, the visits to a doctor or medical practitioner increased incrementally as well. So stress leads to illness. And so what do we do to modulate stress? Group activities is one. So social interaction. This group you have here online is one good way to mitigate stress. Being cooped up in the house for a long period of time is not good for anyone. So we have been starting to recommend group exercise. We have been starting to recommend group activities, group meditation, group yoga to different types of groups. And I would like to recommend it to your group as well. If you can do one session of group yoga or group exercise, group meditation, that goes a long way in maintaining the behavior for one, and also maximizing the benefit of the activity for yourself. We've seen that exercise, stress management, and social connection will improve viral immune defense. It will improve baseline inflammation, and it will start to improve your resilience to things. Many groups have come out that actually promote these types of activities, and so it's super easy to try nowadays. We've also seen that if you lack sleep, even just for one night, you will need about 1 to 2 nights afterwards to pick up on sleep. I've seen patients who have 6 to 8 hours of sleep, which is what you want, but they wake up 10 times a night. So not really good sleep on that front. We're seeing that there are multiple different reasons for that. Having a TV in your room, having more screen time are different reasons for that. And so we try to advise, I'd like to share with you that we try to advise that screen time is turned off 1.5 hours before sleeping. And that would typically start to incorporate a better sleep hygiene cycle for you. So sleeping is super important. And so as a review, we have looked into the steps of COVID. We know that the virus does attach to our body. There is an immune system that activates within ourselves to fight the virus. Virus starts to replicate, then the immune system starts to go haywire, becomes an uncontrollable response, and that leads to the complications. We reviewed a couple of different food recommendations that have molecules to fight against each of those mechanisms. And we've also looked into lifestyle recommendations to induce better immune function. And so these are a couple of slides I'll show you. You can unmute yourself if you want to, if you're not shy. And I just want to ask you, do you think this is anti-COVID or not? Does it fight the virus or not? So you can unmute, and I'd like to ask the group, is this food anti-COVID or not anti-COVID?
Anti-COVID.
Anti-COVID, which one? What part is anti-COVID?
The tomato.
Very good. Yeah. The egg, the tomato. Excellent. What about the 3-in-1 coffee?
No.
Pro.
It's not.
I heard
No.
it's not. Yeah, it's sugar and additives. It's not
Yeah.
even coffee, to be honest. It's flavoring.
The pepper is anti-COVID.
Perfect. Yeah. What about the sinangag?
Yeah.
Not so much.
Not so.
50-50. The pork depends on what it was cooked with. Okay. Good job, guys.
Bacon.
This is if you're Ilocano, you know what this is. This is inabraw.
Anti-COVID yan.
Very good. That's easy answer. It's a lot of okra, eggplant, you have your greens, and you have
Okra.
it's good stuff there.
Oils.
This is the favorite party pack of anyone who has an office party. And you have the lechon, you have the lumpiang Shanghai, that's with the red sauce, you have your pancit. We all know what this is, right? But what I want to ask is, how were you to make this anti-COVID? Or how were you to structure a meal beside this to mitigate the damage that this can do to your body?
Salads.
Very good. Get a salad. That's a good answer. You have the antioxidants from the fruits and vegetables in the salad to counteract the pro-oxidants or the toxins from this food. Anyone else that has a suggestion for mitigating this risk?
Add more vegetable on the pancit.
That's a good way of doing it. Yep. If you put more fiber in any food that's toxic, you will clear it out. You won't absorb as much. Having a juice or a smoothie on the side as well will start to support this type of food. Not that I'm saying this is good, no, or you eat it, but there are times when we go to certain events or we're preparing for certain occasions where you really can't mess with the food, right? They'll get mad at you. So the best way to do it is to take something that will mitigate this type of food exposure. I think everyone has learned of Netflix since the quarantine started. I've had a couple of patients who've lost sleep because of it. I want to ask your opinion. Has this been true for you as well? We had loss of sleep because of binging on shows.
Yes.
Well, it's a mixed answer. I see heads shaking and I see heads nodding. But yeah, this is really something that we have to put into the spotlight. It's a good way to pass the time, but lying down, sitting down the whole day is not good for the body. So having some form of movement is always a good idea. Group dancing or exercise is
Good. That's good.
easy answer. Yeah. It's definitely a good activity for us. Fruits and vegetables.
Yes.
We are a tropical country. We have so much of this in our area. I think lately what's in season was lanzones and rambutan. We were having that the other day. Also, I'd like to share that with the advent of the quarantine period, because people could not go out of the houses, a lot of the suppliers have come straight from farmer to your house. So there's been a big reduction in the price of fruits and vegetables. We did a study last year looking at the the reason why fruits and vegetables were so expensive in our supermarkets. And what we found out was that there are 7 to 8 middlemen that would typically switch hands from Benguet all the way to Metro Manila. But because of the quarantine period, now it's probably one or two switching of hands. The tolling isn't as much, and so you'll see lower prices at more affordable prices. So smoothies, I love. If you don't already have a good blender, I would suggest to invest in one because it will save you. For the days that you don't have any fruit or vegetable in your diet, you can just get a pack of frozen fruits or vegetables, put it in a blender. Just make sure that the fruit content is 1/3 the amount, the fruit content 1/3, veggie content 2/3, and that's a good. It's better than a multivitamin actually. Frozen food are fine because they are flash frozen once they're harvested. So that's totally okay naman. You can store it in the freezer for a long period of time. Chips. This has been, of all the things that have maintained their stock price, the fast moving consumer goods are good. They've maintained because of the quarantine period. But really, guys, this is toxins to our body. These are toxins to our body. They are full of salt, sugar, additives, preservatives, food coloring. Not to mention the packaging that they come in are plastic containing, BPA containing some of them, and that's really just full of toxins as well. So I'm not saying no, I'm saying have something to reduce the toxic load if you have these. All right, chop suey, easy to answer. This is but why I want to show this is because there's a subclass of fruits and vegetables, actually more vegetables, that induce more detox in the system. We call them cruciferous vegetables. I don't know if you've heard of these. These are typically the alien sounding or alien looking vegetables. Now you have your broccoli, your cauliflower, kale. Kale looks like an alien if you look at what kale looks like. Cabbages look like aliens. So cruciferous are high sulfur containing vegetables, and what they do is they turn on the detox system in your liver. So what we're seeing, if you're having about 3 cups of cruciferous vegetables per day, whether juiced, smoothied, or you eat it, that will induce enough detox to clear multiple toxins on that day's load. So good idea to always have cruciferous. There's always been a question as well. This was an age-old story where if you eat too much cabbage, you get goiter, right? There was always that notion. That's not true. That's been debunked by studies. There is no connection between cabbage intake and goiter. All right. A lot of my patients, or when I lecture, a lot of the people who listen to me also ask, Raymond, is my multivitamin okay? So here is a paper that I'm showing you. You can take a photo of the reference below. The paper is free to look at. You can just type that on Google. And what they did was to look into the recommended nutritional quantities, nutrients and quantities of nutrients across the time points for an infection. So you'll see here it's subdivided. You have on the first column a preventive measure. On the second column, if you have the infection. The third column, if the inflammation is starting to increase in your body because of the infection, and then recovery. Each phase or row has a certain function. So this is more of a foundational set of nutrients that you need. You can get from food or supplements. This is more antioxidant support. This one supports immune function. This one supports the other side of immune function. And then this one's for inflammation support. So you can get it from the paper. I'm not going to linger too much on this page, but I did do a short summary in the next slide, which is take a look at your nutrients. Do you have vitamin A at 5,000 micrograms per day? C at 500 3 time points in a day, D3 5,000, zinc 30, and fish oil 3 grams per day. Just want to be clear, I'm not advocating supplementation. You can get this from food, but if your food's not good, then this is the recommendation, right? So at least we're very clear in that. Okay. And so how would we build a anti-COVID food schedule and lifestyle schedule? For breakfast, take a look at what you ate or think about what you ate this morning. Do you have foods that are anti-COVID? If you make a simple omelet, put some bell pepper, tomatoes, eggs, then that's really anti-COVID in nature. If you have a smoothie in the morning, you can put the fruits and vegetables there. Then you're getting your load of antioxidants in the morning. Get some sunlight, simply because quarantine period is not good for anyone, and we do need to get out, not just for sunlight, but to regulate sleep cycles. Mid-morning, instead of coffee, maybe you can get some green tea or turmeric tea or something that you can drink instead of coffee. Not that coffee is bad, but it's just not anti-COVID. Having a 5-minute meditation or prayer time, 3 interspersed throughout the day, is very, very good for the brain and for your sanity. And then for lunch, you have your Filipino-inspired meal. You have mostly veggies, half the plate is veggies, 1/4 protein. Afternoon, you have your snack. You can do dark chocolate, grapes, some fruit, because they're in season. Then this one I found to be very effective for people battling loneliness and sadness. A gratitude journal. So I've asked people to get notebooks, and at some point during the day, they write 3 things they're happy for that day. Then they repeat it the next day, repeat the next day. We found that it starts to create insight in patients. And insight is when your brain starts to understand and starts to get a reason to be healthy, a reason for being. So having gratitude in your life is one definite way to do that. For dinner, we have, again, vegetables, mostly some protein, and then a sleep ritual before bedtime. We're almost done, but 3 slides to go. So to end, I'd like to share that at the end of the day, the way we want to manage COVID is that we should understand that at one point we might really just get COVID. We might get infected by the virus. That's a no-brainer. There's really a lot of people out there. But if the inflammation in your body is not elevated, it's at a low state, you are less likely to progress toward a complicated state of having COVID. And so there are different questionnaires that you can pull up online. This is one of them. It's called the Medical Symptoms Questionnaire. Try to answer this, and as you answer it, try to check your score. If your score in this questionnaire is below 10, then you have good health. Just really, you're good. I don't think you'll be in the complicated state of COVID, even if you do get it. But if you're mildly inflamed, moderately inflamed, or severely inflamed, meaning your score scales for the symptoms are above between 10 to 100, then there's some room for improvement. Then you try to change your breakfast or lunch or dinner. Then you try to change your exercise regimen to try to reduce the inflammation load of the body, trying to aim for symptoms of less than 10. And if you're able to do that, then you can become more confident and proactive about going out there, not being afraid to catch the virus at some point. I'll end with this. The truth is not something outside to be discovered. It is instead something inside to be realized. One of the key takeaways that I'd like to share is that during this time of quarantine period, it is really a big time for reflection of our own lives, mind, body, and spirit. And in reflection, we are able to create more space for new ground and new pages in our book of life. It's more of a revival. I'd like to think of it as a revival of creating new habits to move forward with. And so because of the time that we're given for ourselves, it becomes a very profound experience. So rather than be afraid, take it as a way to become more profound with the life that you've been given. So I'll end with that. We looked into the 4 main points for today. I think I'm on time. We're at 4:13. And we can proceed to questions and answer segment, Q&A. I hope you liked the lecture.
Thank you very much, Dr. Escalona. The floor is open for questions. If anybody has any questions. I'm sure all of us are curious. We have a lot on our minds, so maybe does anybody want to start there? Turley, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Raymond, I noticed in the fruits list of fruits. How come ampalaya's not there?
Oh, the veggies. It does not have a anti-COVID property.
Oh, but it's normally suggested for diabetes or something like
Yes,
that.
yeah. So
So,
so the compound in ampalaya is a blood sugar regulating compound. So we
okay.
call it TGF1, I think is the mechanism. But not that it's bad, no. Not that you don't eat it. It's still good. It's a bitter vegetable. It controls blood sugar. Just that it doesn't have a specific molecule that's been researched
Ooh,
to target COVID-19.
COVID. So where can we get that questionnaire?
Oh, I can send it. I'll send it to you. I'll email
Okay.
it to you. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Thank
can
you.
send it now. Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a question. Hello.
Yes, please, Tess.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned about functional medicine early on when you
Yeah.
were doing the introduction. What
Oh, yeah.
exactly do you deal with when you are practicing functional medicine?
Oh, yeah. So that's my subspecialty. There's not a lot of us. We deal with anything that can't be solved in the
Oh,
conventional scheme. So we're the last line of defense for any hospitals. I'm the last line referral for most of the hospitals in Metro Manila. When they can't solve it, they have 10 doctors on the case. They call me and then they ask me my opinion on it. But mostly what we do is we look for root cause. So the question for us is not what you have. We don't really care about what the diagnosis is, but why did you get that symptom or condition? So I specialized mostly in brain neurologic, so autism, ADD, ADHD. But my other training was in autoimmunity, so lupus, IBS, eczema that doesn't want to go away, psoriasis. So we look for the reasons why the body responds that way. We treat them, and then the conditions in a number of cases will reverse naman if you catch them on early on.
thank you.
Do you also handle depression for
Yeah,
young
mental health.
kids?
Yep, mental health issues is not a medication deficiency. It is.
So what do you do? Like if I have a niece who's depressed, what sort of process do you um, have them go
Undergo.
through? Yeah,
Yeah.
to determine.
So the first step is always a consult. So we do a 1.5 to 2 hour consult. We sit down with the person with the info, whether if it's a kid, then it's the mom we're talking to. But if the child is already 18 or above and they want to undergo the process, then we talk to them. Then we get the entire life story from birth until the time that they're consulting. And we're looking at all the time points when they got sick, regardless of what illness. So maybe at 1 to 2 years old, you had some form of gas or bloating. At 10 years old, operated on. At 12, there's something else. And we're trying to look at all the ways their body responded to the environment that they lived in. Simply because any chronic condition is a gene-environment interaction. Your genes are responding to environment. So if your body starts to create, let's say, hypertension, you're not a hypertensive patient. Your body is expressing hypertension because it's trying to respond to something. So we
Okay.
try to look for what it's responding to. So if a patient typically would have mood disorders, a lot of the conditions of mood disorders are inflammation in the brain. So what is causing the brain inflammation? I've seen as simple as iron deficiency to as complicated as multiple fungal and bacterial infections causing different conditions. It's just
Oh,
that in conventional medicine, when we were trained before, I guess the way you know it, we just name it differently, right? So if there's inflammation in the skin, it's eczema or psoriasis.
mm-mm.
But the same inflammation that hits your kidney can be chronic kidney disease. It's a different name, but it's the same underlying mechanisms to the disease. So the question for us then would be, why are you expressing or creating inflammation? Then we go back and do detective work.
Okay, so it's possible that she'll be weaned out of medication for her depression.
I've been successful in a couple.
Okay,
There's always a chance to pull back from meds. That's actually what I do.
okay, good, good.
Remove meds.
We'll call you. Thank you.
Any other question? I hope that explains functional medicine, but yeah, that's not really what we're talking about. But yeah, I think Miss Tonette has a.
What causes uncontrolled immune activation?
So, immune activation, Miss Tonette, is always your.
The uncontrolled
Yeah,
one.
yeah. So your body really has an immune response, right? That's normal to your body. The immune response is subdivided into two phases. there is an immune response, and there's a defense response, and there's a repair response. So I'll give you an example. If I walk to my wall, I hit my head, I get a bukol, diba? I get the bukol on my head. The bukol will first swell because there's been damage to my skin maybe, and my immune system goes there to clear away the damage. That's called the defense response. After 48 hours, there will be a repair response. Molecules will go into that area and will start to repair the bukol. Your body responds to 5 different specific things in excess or in if it's low or if it's high. Number 1, your body can create an immune response or inflammation to a food you can't digest. That's the one. Number 2, if you get an infection, your body will create an immune response. You'll try to fight the infection. Number 3, if you've been exposed to a toxin, whether heavy metal like mercury, lead, arsenic, or some other type of toxin, your body will create an immune response. Number 4, if you have a nutritional imbalance, your body will create an immune response. And so all these will lead to a response. But if you have enough nutrients, your body will stop the response and will create the defense sequence. Make sense so far? That's the path. So if a patient then, if a person has 2 conditions, if the thing that caused damage is still in your body, then your body will keep responding to it forever. So if I acquire an infection and it just sits in my body, my immune system tries to handle the infection, but it's not able to, then it will stay in my body will keep creating an immune response. Then that leads to an uncontrolled immune response. That's one. If I eat a food that I can't digest and I keep eating it every day, then I keep putting it in my body, I will keep creating an uncontrolled immune response. If I have a toxin that I ingested and it gets stored in my fat, it's stored in my body, then that will also create that immune response. So those are the 3. On the other side of the equation, if you have enough nutrients, you will block or stop that from happening. And so that's what we were talking about today in the COVID lecture. If you have vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, glutathione, you will then stop the defense response from happening. But if you have lack of vitamin A, D, E, glutathione, you won't be able to stop the response. So there are then 2 situations to have uncontrolled immune response. If the thing that caused damage is still in your body, number 1, or 2, you're nutritionally depleted or deficient in the nutrients to stop it. Clear? Does it make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So if you have a chronic issue then, right? If you have asthma, you have hypertension, you have diabetes, or you have some pain that doesn't want to go away, think of that the body is just responding to something. You have to do some detective work to find out why that's there. Yes. The medicine will only be a band-aid. It will tide you for a couple of weeks, then it's going to go up again and it hurts, then you take it again. But the true solution is to find the root cause of the condition.
Okay, that's why the seniors are told to stay away, no, right? To be in quarantine more because we have more like the hypertension and more of the other diseases.
Yes,
no? How do you call it? We are more
at risk po,
susceptible.
at risk. Yes po, opo.
At risk, yes.
Yeah. That's why
Thank you.
my take on that recommendation is to teach everyone to live healthy.
Yes.
Because if you reduce
That's why this diet is well recommended. Thank you.
Opo. If you're able to reduce the immune response or the inflammation to begin with, then you have no fear going out. So you've reversed the inflammation to start off.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Doctor,
Yes.
I have a question about vitamins.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. We've been advised to take 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, but what you showed here is just 500 milligrams, or
Yeah.
this is micrograms. So
Milligrams,
is it possible to have an overdose of these vitamins? Just in case you get so praning already.
Yeah, so vitamin C is okay. The only time you will overdose is I mean, the only symptom that you get from overdosing vitamin C is diarrhea.
Ah,
So
okay.
if you've been taking 1,000 and you don't get diarrhea, you're fine. There's no
Okay.
problem there.
What about
uh,
the others, Doc? What about
yeah.
the others?
The other one that you can overshoot is zinc, but it's
Okay.
typically if you take zinc at 100 milligrams or above, right? So if you're taking
Okay.
zinc at 30 to 50, you'll be fine. There's no issue to overdose
No
at
issue
that
to that.
range.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there other nutrients? No. The other ones you typically won't overdose at the ranges that I shared to you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome.
Sir, can I have a question? I'm
Yes,
Josie.
please.
What
Hello.
about the virgin coconut oil? Can you say
Yeah.
something about it?
Yeah. Actually, Dr. Derrit was my professor in med school before, and I talked to him a lot. So, Dr. Derrit had a lot of work. His dad had a lot of work in coconut oil, and we're seeing that there are certain components of VCO that does support anti-COVID properties. I didn't include it in my in my presentation because the research is not out. So all the stuff you saw today, there's hard evidence of published data there. Right now, I think they're still finishing the clinical trial in PGH. But what you want is virgin coconut oil, not MCT oil. MCT oil is for energy in the body. Virgin coconut oil has polyphenols, so the natural compounds against the virus, and it has lauricidin oil, which is antiviral in nature. That's typically okay to take, and in general, VCO is a it's a superfood actually, and has a lot of benefits to the body. Putting it in your coffee to make what we call a bulletproof coffee. So if you put a shot of coconut oil into coffee, black coffee, that's going to give you energy throughout the entire morning after you take the coffee. Hope that helps.
You have you heard also of coco nectar? The one
The
in
coco
human
sap. I
nature.
think, yeah. Is it the coco sap? Correct.
Coco nectar, the one available at Human Nature.
Not yet. I wonder if that's the coco sap that they talk about. But I think it's the tree juice, correct? Or is it still part of the fruit?
It's combined with honey.
Mm, I might not be able to comment on that. I don't know the product. I'm sorry.
Anyway, thank you.
Doctor, related to that virgin coconut oil,
Mm-hmm.
I was just given this virgin coconut oil in capsule.
Mm.
Is this
Oh,
okay?
well, I think it's best if you send me the label.
Ah, okay. It's
Ma'am Shirley.
Grow Rich Virgin Coconut Oil.
Yeah, I'll take a look at the label. Depends kasi how they processed it eh. If they heated it
Ah,
or they dried it or they ganyan. Different processing will remove nutrients from the food. That's
oh,
why the most shelf-stable food has the lowest amount of nutrients in the in the entire food kingdom. Um,
okay.
Generally, the more steps you take, the less nutritional value. The less steps you take, the more nutritional value it has.
Okay. It's really should be really virgin.
Yeah. The oil talaga, not capsule.
Not a capsule.
Also, sometimes there's a lot of the third party sellers that you don't know where how the quality was produced. So you're trying to look for things with GMP, good manufacturing practice,
Yes, okay.
they've been screened um, by other third party.
Sige, we'll do that, Doc. Thank you.
Okay.
Another doctor. What about the difference between extra virgin oil, olive oil versus olive oil?
So, if you take some olives, diba? You take some olives, you press them the first time, that's the extra virgin. That's the first pressed extra virgin. Now, from that extra virgin, they take the olives again, they press it a second time. That's the second pressed oil. Then they take it again and they press it a third time. That's not anymore virgin. That's already just the olive oil category. So what you're looking for are oils in dark bottles. If you're using a cooking oil in a clear bottle, please throw it away. It's not healthy for you. Um, you want oils in dark bottles, and you want oils that are not exposed to sunlight or air, because the more they're exposed, they become oxidized. So There are two typical oils that we cook with now in the house. I've instructed them to buy this. It's coconut oil for high heat cooking, or extra virgin olive oil for light sauteing, sealing foods in oil, all that stuff. If you want other oils for high heat cooking, I think it's avocado oil or grape seed oil. If you have sunflower, vegetable, canola, throw it all away. They're all mostly trans oils na.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Doctor, how about this barley green powder?
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Depends how it is processed, but it's really good fiber containing supplement. Should help with bowel movements and clearance of toxins, except if you're gluten intolerant. So there's about 13% of the population who can't take gluten, and I think barley, unless is it barley, the green one, the green wheatgrass type of barley?
It says barley green powdered juice of young barley grass.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. That doesn't have gluten.
It's the Dr. Hagiwara thing.
Yeah, should be okay. That's fine. Yeah, that should be okay.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think we are...
Another one, I checked the Coco Nectar. It says here, pure natural coconut honey.
Huh. Wonder what they did with that one. I'll try to take a look. I'm not familiar.
Okay. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Thirdly, I think we're good on the time.
Yeah, I think, is there any other question?
We just need to really contact details of the doctor if we need to, directly consult with him.
Okay, we'll post. Is it okay, Dr. Raymond? I'll post your contact number and email.
Yeah, email is fine. Just email.
Okay,
good, yeah.
email. Or they can go to your Facebook page, Whole
Health.
Whole Health Integrated.
Email is okay also. Just email is fine. That's definitely the best one.
All right.
Thank you.
So,
all right.
Thank
Group
you,
picture.
Dr. Raymond. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Do you have a are you okay to have a photo? I don't know if you're camera shy or not.
Everyone, please put on your video so that it's not all names.
Yay.
All right, I can take
Okay.
it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Raymond.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the next page.
Thank you, everyone.
Wait, next page pa raw. Next page.
Hindi kasama yung page.
No.
1.
Next page.
Ready? Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you again, Doc.
Okay, if you need me, just call. I'd love to do the, I really
Yes.
like lecturing, to be honest. And I hope you all stay healthy and start to eat healthier in the next couple of months.
We'll
Because
consult
it's
you.
very, very easy, guys. It's not hard anymore to eat healthy. I promise.
Okay. All right.
Okay, have a good
Okay,
day.
thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much, Doctor.
Bye. You're welcome.
Please send us the photo.
Yeah, of course.
I'll post the email address on the CPLD Viber group. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
To everyone.